Tonight's big stories. A lawmaker is proposing to reduce the number of subjects offered in grades 1 to 3 to allow students to focus on the basics, especially on improving reading comprehension. What does the Education Department think of this idea? We'll find out later.
Sabi nga, girls, masarap ang bawal, lalo na sa pagkain. But health experts worldwide are flagging the higher risk of eating food with trans fat. We'll discuss later what the health department plans to do about this.
Senator Grace Poe says it is high time that motorcycles are legalized as a safe and convenient mode of public transportation in the country, citing the overwhelming demand for such an alternative. Lawmakers are also looking at increasing the total cap of motorcycle taxi riders, which currently stands at 45,000. What do you think of this move?
Welcome to the show. I'm Gretchen Ho.
I'm Chicky Verhel.
And I'm Sean Yao. All right, big story tonight. I suppose same as the big story last night. This joint venture, right?
I came home to my Twitter feed being filled with eulogies.
Eulogies?
Because DZMM is closing down. It has been there for quite a very long time, serving us through typhoons. You know, we saw a lot of anchors sending out messages, a lot of employees.
And again, the green, red, and blue hearts all over my Twitter feed also. So tama ka, Gretchen. It is definitely an end of an era.
And apart from DZMM ceasing operations, ABS-CBN also struck a deal with Romualdez-led Prime Media. Let's try to make sense of this move. So ABS-CBN announced yesterday that it is ceasing operations of Teleradyo, and financial losses were cited, of course, come 3 years after the shutdown. And on top of that, on Teleradyo's closure, ABS-CBN also announced this joint venture with Prime Media. From the statement, ABS-CBN said they are intending to find ways to continue providing news to the public. ABS-CBN is entering into a joint venture with Prime Media Holdings Incorporated. The new company will produce various programs which will be supplied to broadcasters and other third-party platforms, including the Philippine Collective Media Corporation.
Right, thank you, Gretchen, for reading word for word what the contents of the disclosure that the companies both made to the Philippine Stock Exchange. Gretchen, can you unpack for us what we know about this deal so far? And moreover, what we know about Prime Media?
So under this deal, Prime Media will be the majority stakeholder with a 51% equity. ABS-CBN, on the other hand, will have minority stake at 49%. If you recall, that was supposed to be the arrangement between TV5 and ABS-CBN, but now it's with Prime Media. And they are also with this new company with an initial stock that will be registered with the SEC. Will have an initial capital of 100 million pesos consisting of 100 million shares at 1 peso apiece. As mentioned, the new company that will emerge from this partnership will supply content and programs to broadcasters and third-party platforms. ABS-CBN said the joint venture will also offer employment opportunities for personnel affected by Teleradyo's closure. For ABS-CBN, the partnership with Prime Media provides it with an additional revenue stream through equity investment and share in the project of the joint venture. Now, what do we know about Prime Media? That is your question, Sean. Well, it is a subsidiary of RYM Business Management Corporation, a holding firm owned by House Speaker Martin Romualdez. The company currently operates TV and AM stations in Tacloban, as well as 24 FM stations nationwide, mostly in Eastern Visayas. Veteran stock market analyst Jonathan Ravelas told us here last night that this deal could be a positive engagement for both ABS-CBN and Prime Media.
Hopefully, it will allay the fears about press freedom. No? I think we will probably try to see that being tested. No? But at the same time, this will actually put Prime Media subsidiaries into a nationwide scale. No? So, again, this is something that in the past years, we've seen that most of our networks are Luzon-based. No? So this time, we're probably going to see something that will try to balance content between the Visayas, Mindanao, and eventually where Luzon is.
Okay, Sean and Gretchen, to share his insights on this deal between ABS-CBN and Prime Media, we have with us now on the show veteran journalist and Center for Media Freedom and Responsibility trustee, Vergel Santos. Welcome to the big story, Mr. Santos.
Hi guys, thank you.
Right.
Hello.
So,
Thank you.
We've repeatedly said that House Speaker Martin Romualdez owns Prime Media, and we all know that he denied ABS, or he was one of those congressmen who denied the ABS-CBN franchise a couple of years ago. Do we expect newscasting to be a bit more friendly to the administration, or not necessarily?
Certainly it will be friendly towards the Romualdezes and the people in power. I mean, it is obvious enough that this alliance is struck precisely to further mutual interest. One gains political power, and the other gains media power. I mean, this is all too obvious. In fact, there is no need to test whether ABS-CBN would be able to withstand, the demands of its majority owners, when it comes to the treatment of the news. I can't imagine that. A media company, especially a news company, is necessarily, if it were to stick religiously with basic media ethics, should not be in partnership at all with the political power.
Well, speaking of conflict of interest, Mr. Vergel, can you give us, a clear sight on how decision-making is going to be? Because I've been seeing on my timeline that the newsroom will still be managed by by ABS-CBN with a 49% stake. Posible po ba yun na, kumbaga, iwan na natin news sa dating nagmamanage noon? All entertainment, lagay natin dito sa Prime Media?
We are looking at the wrong management. At tinitingnan natin yung magmamanage ng newsroom. Hindi natin tinitingnan kung sino magmamanage ng buong kumpanya. And clearly enough, ang majority owner doon, yung Prime News, hindi ang ABS-CBN. In fact, ang ABS-CBN, naiintindihan nila na hindi dapat itong ginagawa nila, hindi sila pupunta rin sa kabila Maliwanag na may kailangan sila doon sa kabila. Ganun lang naman yan no? At yung kabila naman, pumayag sa kanila dahil may kailangan din sa kanila yun. This is all too obvious, as I've said. Hindi naman pwedeng ikailayan, no? Especially in this case. In this case, the structure of ownership is fairly clear. Na ang majority nito ay yung kumpanya ni Romualdez at ang minor, yung ABS-CBN. In fact, hindi ko makita kung paano magkakasama ang dalawang ito na ang mayorya ay ABS-CBN. Whatever you say, hindi tinitingnan yung... Ang maliwanag dito is remember that ang kinulang sa ABS-CBN kaya nawala ng prangkisa ay political power. It happened to have fallen out of favor with the ruling power at the time. Ngayon, ngayon, ang kasangga nila ngayon the ruling power itself.
Alright,
And what is
Yes,
rather curious and very interesting is that nangyayari ito habang nagkakaroon ng political alignments sa loob mismo nung ruling power.
Alright, Vergel, yun nga yung tatanong kasi, pag tinitignan natin, paano nag-unfold yung events, yung timeline mula sa closure up to now, masasabi natin kasi, itong mga beef na pinag-uusapan natin between the families, gano'n, nasa previous generation yan Ngayon, nasa bagong generation na tayo. Pero you were able to actually observe. You had a front seat to how all these events unfolded since the 70s, since the 80s. The silence actually is what's kind of strange about this whole thing. The last time, walang tigil, batikos, kaliwat kanan. Ngayon, parang 2 days na. Ang dami natin nakikita, ng mga requiem for ABS. Wala tayong naririnig na complaint about this JV.
Actually, naobserbahan ko na yan, maaga pa So, ang tingin ko, maaga pa, meron ng usapan na nag-umpisa ng mag-usap yan. Kasi wala ko nakikitang serious batikos doon sa ruling power. Pero ngayon magkakaroon ng serious batikos yan doon sa kalaban ng ruling power. especially now that, as I've said, there seems to be a very serious realignment of forces within the ruling power itself. Yung kina Martin and Marcos at kina Duterte and their long-time partners na mga Arroyos. So maliwanag yan eh. So that it should happen at this time, ibig sabihin, tumataya ng ABS-CBN na kailangan nila ang poder nung nasa poder ngayon.
Mr. Vergel, sorry, forgive me, I don't know much about this, but is there any provision in the law that somehow prohibits ownership of a media company when you are in a position of power, such as the House Speaker?
No, there is none eh. And in fact, kahit na meron, ma'am, madaling ikutan yan eh, no? Pag nakita nyo, and the evidence, there is evidence is rife that people in power, in political power, themselves own media companies. Ultimong yung nahan doon sa local governments, may-aring periodiko, may-aring ng radyo, may-aring ng television station. So, hindi nangyayari kasi ito this is an ethical issue po eh. Pagka lang naipakita nila na halimbawa ang isang political power ay patron lamang, pwedeng itago yan sa incorporation papers ng isang kumpanya. Madali yan eh, no? Pero makikita ng tao yan dahil the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Tuwing makita nyo, masdan nyo kung paano ibinabalita ang balita sa isang news organization. Makikita nyo yan. Ako nung araw, nung mag-editor ako, somehow sabi ko, makita ko lang ang copy ang sinulat eh. Makikita ko kung saan nakalinya yun eh.
Okay.
Lalo ito
Vergel.
pa, kitang-kita mo gabi-gabi kung ano ang ibabalita niya mga yan. Makikita natin.
Okay, Vergel, nandito na tayo sa
Mahirap itago
corporate level. So, syempre, hindi natin pwedeng kalimutan na isa dun sa mga rason, sa mga batiko sa ABS-CBN, kung kaya tinanggalan nga sila ng franchise, may mga violations daw sila, may mga tax violations.
Kalimutan na ba?
Oo, ganun. Ano na nangyari doon? Makikita ba natin na may babalik?
Hindi pinag-uusapan yun eh. Doon sa nakaraang dispensation, lahat trumped up violations eh. That by itself, hindi pinag-uusapan. Yung kilala, trumped up lahat eh. Ngayon sa ABS-CBN, na ipaliwanag ng ABS-CBN na wala eh. Maliwanag naman yun eh, no? At maliwanag na ang pag-renew ng prangkisa, pro forma yan eh. Na ministerial yan eh. Ibinibigay lang yan. Ang naghuhusga lang yan kung hindi ka you are unable to meet certain technical requirements that you are called out. Pero hindi ka tinatanggalan ng prangkisa o hindi nire-renew ang prangkisa. Ang ginagawa lang, either penahan ka o i-call out ka lang. Hindi ginagawa yung ganyan, natanggalan ng prangkisa. Pero pag ikaw ay presidente at ikaw ay kasangga mo ang Kongreso, not only ang Kongreso, but you have co-opted all the other power institutions of government, kaya mong gawin lahat yan. At nangyari yan sa panahon ni Duterte. Ang tingin ng ABS-CBN, kayang gawin yan, kaya rin gawin yan ng present dispensation. Maaring they are hoping na one day, they will wake up, may prangkisa na naman sila. You never know.
Points well taken po. Maraming salamat sa inyong oras. That's veteran journalist Vergel Santos.
Up next, the Manila City LGU has conducted inspections of the fire-hit Central Post Office building. Their initial findings when we return. Keep it here on One News. big story here on One News. Still one of our top stories, ladies. Authorities were now able to inspect the Manila Post Office after the fire that hit Sunday. Now, we saw the ruins of the Manila Post Office, and there were initial assessments. Kanina dumating doon yung yung NCCA to inspect, to see what can be done.
Ayun
So,
na.
may initial assessment na ba?
Ano bang initial assessment, Gretch, ng city engineers?
Sabi nila factor din daw yung past calamities like typhoons, earthquakes, and yun yung World War II. The Manila Engineering Office said it could take them 2 weeks to release the results. Kung fire officials naman ang tatanungin, mukhang kinulang daw sa proper inspection at maintenance yung building. Hindi na tayo magugulat dyan. Kasi sabi nga sa atin noong isang gabi, wala naman special protocol to make sure that it was a little bit more fireproof. As to the official cause of the fire, no details on that yet. Apart from it starting from the south side, city engineers said that should the building fail to meet standards on structural integrity, it would have to be demolished except for the historical facade.
May batas naman ang nilabas ang Historical Commission. Pag 50 years and above ang building, historical siya. Pagka nakondem mo siya, hindi ka pwede magtayo nang hindi kasama yung facade ng building. So, kung talagang i-demolish ang building, i-retain mo ang facade pagka historical ang building.
Joining us tonight for conversation on what's next for the Manila Post Office building, we have National Commission for Culture and the Arts, NCCA Executive Secretary Oscar Casaysay. Oscar, thanks for joining us. We know that you guys checked the building out. You saw it for yourself. As early as now, do you have some initial plans for the rehab of the building? And what kind of assistance can the NCCA extend and will extend?
Yes, good evening everyone. I am Oscar Casaysay, the Executive Director of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts. Yes, we have an initial visit or ocular this afternoon at the site of the Philippine Post Office, Manila Post Office. And with that, I would like to report that this afternoon also we convened our Board of Commissioners. And one of the discussion, we have a very lengthy discussion of what had happened and ways of moving forward is that the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, headed of course with our National Chairman, Victorino Mapa Manalo of the National Archives, will initiate to organize the IACH or what we have, what we call the Interagency Task Force for the cultural heritage. This will be participated in by some of our colleagues in the cultural agencies. We have the National Historical Commission and the National Museum, which is more on the discussion of the emergency conservation measures. And of course, the National Archives on the post-disaster record management and business continuity. And of course, we have to call in also the Postmaster General, Luis Carlos, who will be discussing on what are their plans after the very tragic incident. So we are expecting tomorrow that we will convene this interagency task force to discuss and sit down in details kung ano po yung ways of moving forward. And for now, our plans would be more on to organize and assess and evaluate, to conduct a rapid assessment of what is the concrete situation of the post office.
Sir, we know that the whole building was burned down. What happens if the building is no longer fit for rehabilitation? How can we honor or continue to honor its architectural significance?
Well, it would be a very sad conclusion, no, if the building will be deemed not fit for rehabilitation. And we hope hindi po sana ganun yung magiging kalagayan or direksyon ng ating pag-uusap kasi napakalungkot. Unang-una, this is an important cultural property as declared by the National Museum, and it is also a historical landmark as declared by the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. So I think we have to convene all the panel of experts as we can, and we have to assume that for now, we really could not evaluate and said that it is not deemed for rehabilitation. So I hope it would not be that, it would not go to that direction.
Sir, sana po ma-apply din po 'yan sa mga iba pang heritage buildings natin, no, to prevent instances like these from happening. I hope you also take a look at the other sites.
Yes po. Actually, that is part of our discussion. In fact, we adopted that we really have to look into our heritage law because as NCCA is the primary government agency that come up with the policies formulation. So we are looking into reviewing our heritage conservation, Philippine Heritage Charter, because we really have to integrate the disaster and disaster risk reduction management plan into that charter. So sa ngayon po, in fact, ways of moving forward namin is we already ordered to investigate and coordinate with our Bureau of Fire Protection Office to conduct how fit are all our heritage sites and spaces
That's
now.
good to hear, sir.
Especially
That's good to
so,
hear.
we are in a tropical country na talagang maulan, mainit, so nagdi-deteriorate po ang ating mga buildings. So yun po ang pinag-uusapan namin kanina.
Alright, Oscar, rest assured, tatawagan ka namin ulit for more updates as the situation with the MCPO becomes clearer. Maraming salamat, NCCA Executive Director Oscar Kasaysay. Alright, may iba naman tayo. So, may isang mambabatas na naman pushing for the reduction of subjects in grades 1 to 3, citing the low reading comprehension among students. So, di ba, last week pinag-uusapan lang natin yung IQ natin, mababa. Yung mga PISA studies noong 2018, talaga namang medyo hindi maganda yung resulta ng mga studies sa ating comprehension.
Ito na yung 5 subjects rolled into one, di ba? Yung CCAP. So, yung ano ba yun? Yung civics, arts, culture, health, yan.
Sabi
Yung
naman
mga
yung history, no, 3 in every 20 cannot read or understand a simple story. So, ano nga bang gagawin, no?
Oh, Sean.
Ano ba yung
ito
proposal?
nga, Yeah.
So ito
What is
nga,
the
no?
proposal?
So in order to cut learning poverty and make it a thing of the past, Pasig Congressman Roman Romulo, who also chairs the House Committee on Basic Education and Culture, believes that reducing subjects will allow students to focus on the basics. So ano ba tong basics?
Ano yan? Reading
Sabi
and
ni
math ba yan?
Congressman Romulo, the current curriculum for basic education is too congested. He believes that instead of the usual 8 subjects, students from grades 1 to 3 should only be focusing on 3 subjects, and those are math, GMRC or good manners and right conduct, and of course, reading. So math, reading, and manners. Some teachers have also expressed support for this move, noting that students are finding it hard to focus on core subjects due to the current high amount of academic requirements.
What we have to do is to focus on the basics, reading, and mathematics.
Okay, Sean and Gretchen, how did the Education Department react to this proposal? Gio Robles has the answer.
Chiki, the Education Department admits that there is much to do to improve the quality of education in the country. The agency notes that they are actually planning to also reduce the number of subjects under the revised K-10 curriculum, but DepEd has yet to provide details on that as consultations with stakeholders are still ongoing. Now, Chiki Education spokesperson Michael Poe explains that this move does not mean that students will be learning less, okay? It only means to provide focus on essential subjects that students need to learn under basic education. Chiki, the Education Department targets to implement the revised K-10 curriculum next school year, while review of the curriculum for senior high school students is still ongoing. Chiki, back to you and good evening.
Parents, brace yourselves. Thank you for that, Gio Robles. Gretchen, Sean, mahilig ba kayo mag-fast food or chips?
Pag traffic,
Parang feeling ko tinitira mo ako.
pag umuulan, katulad ngayon, di ba?
Well, ito kasi, no, health experts are urging caution when eating these because of trans fat. But what exactly is trans fat? Trans fat is commonly seen in pastries, cooking oil, and fried foods, tulad ng French fries. Trans fat is made when liquid oil is turned into solid fat like shortening or margarine. This is considered the worst type of fat to eat. Unlike other dietary fats, trans fat raises bad cholesterol and also lowers good cholesterol. According to the data from the World Health Organization, over 500,000 people die prematurely worldwide yearly due to heart disease caused by the consumption of trans fat. Dito naman sa Pilipinas, ischemic heart disease, parang akong doktor dito. Ischemic heart disease was the leading cause of death in 2022 according to the Philippine Statistics Authority. But here's what a nutritionist had to say about eating food laden with trans fat daily.
Pwede naman paminsan-minsan, pero kung araw-araw, mayat-maya, no, yan yung kakainin ninyo, panay fast food, no? Yan yung maaari magdulot sa inyo ng maraming sakit. Kung araw-araw na, we might be living too short and dying too long.
Given that this is a serious matter worldwide, what is the health department looking to do when it comes to trans fats? Let's bring in JC Cosico to give us the details. JC, what do we have to do?
Gretchen, the health department aims to eliminate industrially produced trans fatty acids in the country through the issued admin order by the DOH and the effectiveness of FDA circular in 2021. The production, sale, and importation of food containing trans fat will be prohibited starting June 19. This means all manufacturers must switch to healthier alternatives in their ingredients. Establishments that violate the regulation may have their application disapproved or their CPR suspended or cancelled. Violators will also be subject to fines and penalties under Republic Act 10611 or the Food Safety Act. Gretchen.
Ang itatawag ko dyan, war on fats. Thank you, JC Cosico.
Alright, commercial muna tayo. Pero after nun, ito ng tanong, will motorcycle taxis be legalized anytime soon? Senate is getting the ball rolling on a regulatory framework that will permanently enable motorcycle ride-hailing. We'll discuss that after the break. Don't go away.
You're still watching the big story here on One News. Parang hindi ko alam yung channel natin eh. What else do we have tonight, girls?
Well, what else?
Motorcycle taxis.
Good news for commuters kasi sobrang lakas ng ulan. So here's a little bit of good news, especially for those na gusto sumakay ng motorcycle taxis kasi nga mabilis daw.
Senate Committee Girls on Public Services is looking into developing a regulatory framework to legalize motorcycle taxis and courier services after a 4-year pilot study. Senator Grace Poe said motorcycles for hire are a viable source of income for motorcycle riders, but much is needed to be done to ensure safety standards are upheld. Services such as Angkas were first allowed to operate in May 2019 under a 6-month pilot program to see if the service is safe for commuters. During the pilot study, around 45,000 riders were given provisional authority to operate motorcycle taxis. With the increased demand for motorcycle taxi passengers, the committee is also looking into the possibility of raising the cap on the number of riders.
We need to legalize to reflect the reality on the ground, but we also need the highest safety standard to make this a true mobility alternative.
In terms of market situation, more players would be better for the consumers. Let the market dictates on the extent of the number of vehicles, motorcycle units.
Okay lang yan na mag-expand kayo na mag-expand. Basta the quality of training is not compromised.
Ang masasabi ko lang dyan, kapag ipinagbawal mo, gagawa at gagawa ng paraan ng Pinoy.
Mas
para
okay na
sumakay,
na-regulated, di ba? Mas okay
Oo.
na na-regulated siya at talaga namang nakikita natin kung na-aksidente yung mga pasahero. Agad-agad rumeresponde yung mga representatives at natitreat yung mga pasahero. Pero ito na lang, okay? Ganito na lang. Way back when, no, one of the biggest critics of this was actually also Senator Grace Poe. And ngayon, siya na mismo yung nagsasabi na dapat na siyang illegalize because alam kong tinutukan rin niya yung buong pilot study which na-extend from 6 months to like, I don't know, 4 years.
4 years,
na yata.
4 years.
So, maya-maya sa news makikita mo, si Senator Poe may nire-raise na points.
alam ko pag umuulan kasi yung mga motor hindi rin masyadong makalaya.
Nagtatago sila sa ilalim.
Di ba?
ng
Yun nga eh.
flyover.
Kaya naman reminder din, no? Pag, wag din tayo mag-cause
Pero
ng
yun nga
traffic.
yun, Gretchen, kasi parang...
Debate din yun eh.
Hindi, pag umuulan, di siguro, magtatawag ka na lang ng TNVS na kotse instead of, bottom line, I think, more options.
More options.
Yeah, for commuters talagang 2 thumbs up ito.
Ito nga, no? So, ang lakas nga ng ulan sa labas. But this is not yet because of Tropical Cyclone Mawar, which is still outside the Philippine area of responsibility. Actually, ito ay ang pwede nating i-blame tonight, no? Is yung southwesterly wind flow at localized thunderstorms. So as of this afternoon, sabi ng Pag-asa that the southwesterly wind flow is bringing cloudy skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms to Occidental Mindoro, Palawan, Western Visayas, and Northern Mindanao. Ganon din po ang lagay ng panahon sa Sorsogon, Zamboanga Peninsula at BARMM. Dito naman sa Metro Manila and the rest of the country, the southwesterly wind flow and localized thunderstorms are bringing partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rains and thunderstorms. Okay, kamustahin naman natin si Mawar. The tropical cyclone is still outside the PAR. It has weakened to a typhoon category, but it could still re-intensify into a super typhoon. Mawar was last spotted over 2,000 kilometers east of the Visayas, packing wind speeds of up to 175 kilometers per hour, with gusts of up to 215 kph. Mawar is expected to enter the PAR by Friday night or early Saturday morning, and by then we will be giving it the local name Betty. But the typhoon is still not expected to make landfall in the Philippines. However, it's still likely to enhance the southwest monsoon or habagat.
May bike ride pa ako sa weekend.
Gretchen, mag-ingat-ingat
Sa
ka.
Cebu kami.
Wow! Baka naman iba yung lagay ng panahon. Hindi
Sana. sabi ni Kuya Kim, hindi raw tatama sa Cebu eh.
Oh, tingnan
basta
natin.
safety
Remains to be
first.
seen.
Mag-aalay na ako ng ito.
Yan ang dapat mong gawin tonight. But for us, that's it. We've run out of time.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
This has been The Big Story. Thank you and good night.